Good morning, Ms. Romney.
Good morning.
Now, during your investigation and your calculations, you concluded that the defendant left the road at 51 miles per hour initially, didn't you?
That is correct. My calculations concluded that Danny Dawson was traveling 51 miles an hour.
Now, the posted speed limit on Canyon Road is 35 miles per hour.
That is correct. The posted speed limit is about a mile north of the accident, I believe.
You would agree that's a 16 miles per hour difference.
Yes, Danny Dawson was speeding.
He was speeding by 16 miles per hour.
She was
Excuse me,
speeding.
she was speeding by 16 miles per hour. Apologize. Now, you said it was raining
Yes, it was, from my understanding, a torrential downpour.
and it was dark.
Yes.
In fact, you said the defendant wouldn't be able to see but 2 feet in front of her with the headlights.
Did I?
Yes,
Today?
you mentioned on direct that since it was so dark and it was raining that the defendant would only be able to see about 2 feet in front of her.
I don't believe I mentioned that on direct examination, but visibility would definitely be limited.
The defendant says that she saw a deer running toward the road, or towards her car.
That is correct. The defendant told me that the deer came from the left side of the road and entered the roadway so that she swerved right.
You didn't actually conclude that there was a deer in the road, did you?
My conclusions were not necessarily that there was a deer, but that the actions taken were evasive maneuvers typical of that, of someone trying to avoid something such as a deer.
There was no deer in the road.
I can't tell you if there was a deer or not. I wasn't in the car.
So you cannot tell us that there was actually a deer in the road.
No, that would be left better for someone who was there for first-hand observation. What I can tell you is that the evasive maneuvers taken were typical of someone trying to avoid something in the roadway. I cannot tell you whether or not it was a deer.
You reviewed Taylor Hobson's affidavit in this case.
That is correct. I did review Taylor Hopkins' affidavit.
She was in the car with the defendant and Vanessa Sullivan.
Yes, she was in the back seat.
She didn't see a deer.
Well, I don't recall Taylor saying that she saw a deer, but she was in the back seat. I don't know what kind of visibility she had from the back seat.
So, just to get this clear, the defendant was speeding through the rain, in the dark, and said he saw a deer. She saw a deer.
Yes.
You're aware that the defendant had been drinking that night.
Well, I am aware of that fact, but I cannot testify as to whether or not she was intoxicated. That's outside of the scope of my expertise.
I'm sorry, Ms. Roman. Maybe my question was unclear. I'm not asking you to testify as to whether or not she was intoxicated. You know she'd been drinking.
Oh, certainly. She did mention that she had been drinking that night, yes.
And she's the only person who mentioned a deer.